None of that
Oh
stuff.
no. That stuff that totally cuss flag. We're not a kid channel in any way, shape, or
Okay,
form.
cool.
We are not child
We are
friendly.
not child friendly, and there will be people jumping in. There's already one or two already. I can already see them joining
Okay.
in through the YouTubes and whatnot. They will all trickle in. How's everyone's week started so far?
Been good. Been good.
Crazy.
Everyone ready for the holidays?
I'm ready for them to be over.
I need to wrap stuff, but past that.
Yeah, gotta do that.
I always end up waiting last minute though, so
I mean, what is it in this economy, right? Like, I mean, unless you're like well off enough that you're not like working till the last minute, you don't have enough time to do any shopping. You don't have the people live paycheck to paycheck. They can't afford stuff until they kind of like the last minute sort of thing. So plus with Amazon and whatnot nowadays, it's like it's harder to kind of get out of the house. You just kind of place your orders as we go along, right?
I mean, yeah. It's like I have everything set aside. It's just I need to sit down and wrap everything.
How many people do you think you usually have during the holidays? Or well, how about this? The question would be rather, how was the holiday this year different from other years so far? I mean, 2020 was definitely with the height of COVID last year, and then this year we're ramping back up with whole new numbers, and but everything is still lax, at least here in the state of Texas, right? Like,
I mean, we're a small group anyway over in our household. So, I mean, the major difference this year is Woody's aunt and uncle are coming up from Austin. So we'll be a whole, hold on, head counting, six people?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes.
Yeah, so it'll be 6 people total.
How do you deal with the holidays, Chris?
Well, the past couple of years is kind of weird. We lost my mom in 2020.
Yeah.
And so since then, of course, it's going to be weird. COVID with my family didn't really play a large role of anything, but then again, we're small, so there's like 6 or 7 of us.
Same.
So, but yeah, it's definitely strange once you lose someone like that, and it's not the same.
Right? Would you say she was probably one of those like pillar of like holiday?
Oh,
time?
absolutely. She was the matriarch.
Yeah, man. Wow. Yeah. No, I get it. I'm, I haven't lost a parent yet. And neither has my wife. So, we're getting there. As we get older, they don't last forever. So that's what kind of happens. And it's always during the holidays too. I think I've got 2 buddies of mine. Like one, his mom just went into surgery for something. And then another one whose dad just came out with, he just got a pacemaker installed a few weeks ago. So it's just like people our age are starting to like deal with parents getting older and they're losing them. And the holidays always tends to be the hardest. I don't understand why.
Well, we lost, let's see, it was October 19th when we lost her of 2020.
So right before like the Thanksgiving and all of that. So it's just like rolling into the holidays is when you're going to have to deal with
into it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. The holidays are rough for everyone, but hopefully we can get some cheer this year. Hopefully no one loses anybody else rest of this year. For sure.
Be nice.
Let's kick this off right. I tend to run the credits at this point, and then after that, we'll kick right into the topic.
All right, then.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Let's go.
Roll those beautiful credits.
Let's roll the bean footage.
And the bean footage.
And the bean footage. Hey everyone, welcome to a not scheduled episode of the Mid-Geek Crisis. Our normal episode will still be tomorrow, but we are definitely doing something special tonight. This one was kind of one in planning. Planning for about a week and a half or so. We were talking with some friends. Wanted to get together as collectors and just older geeks in general and kind of talk about the state of retro collecting in general. Nostalgia, just kind of where the end of the year is kind of taken after COVID and after all of the other things that have happened with either the economy, with the health, and with just us in general, like as collectors and gamers. Things have changed a lot with supply chain issues, with everyone staying at home and wanting to play old video games all of a sudden, and collectors are feeling it, and some people are making out like bandits, and some of them are hurting, and we've got words to say. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Let's see here. Is this implying that it takes 3 people to fill in for Cautious? Yeah, well, for Cautious, definitely. Yeah, he would definitely say so. What's going on, Brandon? How you doing? Yeah, no. So this episode, like I said, I decided to bring on 3 individuals here. They are members of a local Dallas retro gamers group, and as it's called DRG is what we call it here in the Dallas area. No, definitely no NFT and Bitcoiners for sure. But yes, that's a definite talk. We will be talking about that in general. But yes, I'll introduce to my right, to this side right here, we've got Kristen Wood. You are co-owner of Starbase 299, and we'll talk about that name later on. But you used to work for GameStop. You worked for 13 years at GameStop, right?
I did, yes.
And you also worked at an arcade, Tilt, right?
I did.
Yeah, there we go. And below her is our partner in crime, Jason Wood, who is the owner of Starbase 299. It is retro gaming merchandise storefront selling on various online marketplaces. So you sell kind of all through eBay and all sorts of stuff, right?
Right. Through all the digital marketplaces, yeah.
But one of the big ones is you show up at conventions and expos in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex, and then also you used to be former senior pre-owned merchandising. So you were kind of in charge of all the pre-owned merchandise at GameStop for how many years?
Gosh. I think when I went into the offices around 2000, so I left in 2011, so well over a decade.
Yeah.
Helped to build that pre-owned program for the U.S. market.
And so that was all the trade-in and all of that, or was it other things as well?
Yeah, it was anything and everything due to used. So buy, sell, trade for all video games, all accessories, hardware, everything, you name it. If the game or accessory, if it existed, we created a SKU and we sold it. And myself and my team, we put it all together and we told you this is how much we're buying it for, this is how much we're selling it for. And for all 4,400 stores eventually, that grew to be for the U.S. market. So ran the whole thing.
So you left around 2011. Were you right at the tail end, right when they started doing the phones and the smart tablets and all that kind of stuff? Or were you there?
Yes, unfortunately, I was somewhat involved in that, where they were wanting to start go into that. More so after I left, because I was probably resistant to it. Because I said, guys, this really isn't gaming, and we aren't set up to really take this stuff in large amounts, especially for the reformatting and just
data protection and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of consequences with accounts and credit cards, and there's just hundreds and hundreds of models out there. It becomes a mess really quickly.
Yeah.
So for us at a store level, it's a completely different experience than a console. You have a Super Nintendo, you have a Genesis. They work one way. You plug them in, they work. You test them, they work. Okay, you bring in a tablet, model 378-Z, and it's like, oh crap, what do I need to do with this?
Yeah, well, how much RAM does it have? What is it valued? I mean,
what's the specs? What's the value? There's a huge amount of market. It was a mess just to even try to get that started. And then, and of course, it just sapped the energy out of everyone trying to figure out what to do. And then, of course, they're putting it up on the shelf, and everybody's going, why do I want a tablet? I'm here for a video game.
Because you give me a better deal on these games.
Well, not since I left. There are many memes that are on the internet. That's why everyone, hey, I went to the internet and I only got 13 cents for my trade-in. Well, that was after I left. We didn't have the trade-in values that crappy. I guarantee it, because I had control over that. We made sure you got a decent value.
I was the one who took care of them.
Yeah.
So yes. Oh my God.
So the person below me, Chris, he has been in chat before. People might know him as our resident amico conversation starter. But he is also the founder and creator of the Dallas Retro Gamers here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It is a local community for retro collecting and trading, nostalgia in general, and just geek community. And it has where I met all of these wonderful individuals, and it has been kind of a really fun community to be part of the past few years. And so I decided to bring them on, and we wanted to chat, wanted to talk.
Hey,
Woohoo!
So
Yay!
welcome. So
that
again,
one guy. Woo!
Yeah, one guy. Woo! As
Excuse me, as the token female of the group, I'm supposed to be the woo girl, not you.
Also, Kristen, thank you for joining us because you are
problem.
you are the second female to ever show up on my show.
What?
Not for lack of trying. It's just you'd be surprised how hard it is to bring them on. The only other individual that I ever was a co-host at one time, Roxy Hayes. She is a comedian and she now lives out in LA. But she joined us, and she was the only other female that ever joined us on the show. So congratulations for being number 2. But also,
I'll take that title.
You definitely were needed on the show at some point, and we will have you back
Thank you.
more often. But yes, sometimes we need a little female touch here because it can get a little sausage party for sure.
A little bit too much testosterone.
No, right? But I will say that in our circles, we definitely try to keep it correct here. And with that said, I'm gonna just lead into a topic here. Gaming for you, how was it growing up? I mean, women in general are always kind of dealt with a lot of gatekeeping, a lot of problems. You have to prove yourself. Any dude can say they play video games and they're automatically accepted. Like, oh, what do you play? But if a woman says they play games, immediately like, oh, what do you play? How many have you played it? How many hours do you have in that?
You can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little about your background.
Yeah, sure. So I started with Super Nintendo. That was my first system that I ever owned. First game I ever beat was Link, Legend of Zelda, of course, on regular Nintendo, and then I graduated up. It was, you're absolutely right. It is very gatekeepy because then I also hung out a lot at arcades, and I love fighting games. So you have the dual-edged sword there.
The fighting game community is definitely not always the friendliest also to women. So it can get
See, I learned to play it up, and I won a lot of money off of people that way.
Right, and then as soon as you back it up and you got skills, you get followers, right? They're like, oh no, don't mess with her. She knows what she's talking about. Or they goat people on, right?
Yeah, but it was. It's absolutely one of those. You're right. You absolutely have to end up proving yourself, especially more if you're a woman, and you want to play video games. And so you have to get sometimes better than any of the guys ever have to.
Right. It's always
to prove
it's
what
double,
you're doing.
right? You not only have to be good, you have to be the best. Because if you're only just good, then you're still not good enough, right? I totally get that.
Yeah. But no, lots of hours spent specifically on strategy games, specifically on RPGs. I'm a huge Final Fantasy. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. I am an old school Final Fantasy fan.
Freaking Ronald.
So we've got a member that is a fighting game aficionado, and from my understanding,
is that the guy who came over to my house and talked some shit?
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah. He's visiting. We were playing Soul Calibur. Yeah.
I'm so impressed. Anyway.
Good for you. Don't come into my house with that mess.
Right? Well, it was funny because it was Woody and I sitting here chatting back and forth, and we were playing, and I was talking crap. And I was the one, and he was talking, and Woody was talking crap back, but I was the one who he decided to come after for it.
Of course,
whatever.
He's like, well, he's not going to assume for the dudes, but he saw the lady there, and he was like, oh, how good are you? How good are you?
All the time.
Oh, there was a time we were at a meetup, and that same dude talking mad trash, right? And this little 14-year-old comes up and beats the hell out of him. And I thought that was pretty funny.
Hell yeah. Controllers
As a matter of fact,
don't know
I think
gender or age.
If I'm not mistaken, and I could be, it might have been Brandon's nephew who did that.
Nice.
Man,
don't mess with the kids when it comes to games. They've been playing it since they were 2.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. They also haven't established their mature adult life yet, so they got nothing to do like we used to do and play video games. So get extremely good at them. So that's what we did back in the day. So
Jason, give us some background on your beginnings in the retro and the gaming and the nostalgia and the geek.
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, the simplest way is, yeah, it's pretty funny. Growing up as a kid, a lot of people don't believe me, especially given my involvement with gaming all my life. I never owned an Atari. Everyone's like, "No, you lie," and I'm like, "No, my parents refused to buy me an Atari. They would not buy me an Atari." My dad had a TI 9948 computer. He worked at Texas Instruments, so he got the Texas Instruments home computer when he had that. And they actually had a ton of games. They had an absolute huge amount of games, and they were actually good. They were actually really solid games, and we had just rows of them. He would just buy them from the store, like inside the offices. Yep. They had their own little designated store, and we had dozens and dozens and dozens of games. And so I had stuff to play, and then on diskette and everything else, we had a bunch of
it was a different world. I remember growing up, you knew if someone was just a video gamer, or you knew that if they were someone as a computer gamer as well. And there was a different conversation. Like, I mean, especially people our age, when we were kids and anyone who had a computer, there wasn't Windows before, Windows 95 is Windows 95, 1995. And by then I was already in middle school, I mean, I was talking about people beforehand that were playing, DOS and Commodore 64 and
Oregon Trail, sir.
Yeah. Apple's, Apple II and all that wonderfulness. So
Apple IIs had those in the classroom. So it wasn't until 1986, that I got my first Nintendo, because of course parents wouldn't buy it. And I was like, oh, I got to get this Nintendo. I used to have to go to everyone else's house to play their Atari, to play their Intellivision, the ColecoVision, get exposed to all that stuff, because I had the TI 9948 computer, and everybody's like, what the hell is that? So until they came over and played, they were like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm gonna hang out.
So we'll definitely come back to that specific topic, because that probably leads me a little to the collecting side.
Absolutely.
On why you went hard into collecting, because
possibly. But 86, I got my first Nintendo. I bought the Nintendo with Super Mario Bros. Duck Hunt, and bought my first game, Mike Tyson's Punch Out. And since then, I just never looked back.
Oh yeah, no.
I had every single. Yeah, it was absolutely. Had to get the fix going, and played everything from there on, the 8-bit, the 16-bit area, the 32-bit into CD-ROM, and everything else. If the console existed, I found a way to own it, and and I have it, and still have it. So
and you were that kid who also kept like the entire box and everything.
Yes, I kept everything complete. I didn't let anybody borrow anything. I was
that's
like,
a conversation that I should have had with myself a long time ago. Right? That registration card that's in there. Keep that. Apparently, people will pay lots of money for the registration.
Oh my god!
Right?
Yeah, sometimes it's pretty ridiculous. Yeah.
Also, make sure to count the number of screws on your Nintendo cartridges. That matters.
If it's 5 flathead, you've got an adapter in there.
5 versus 3, that is an amazing.
I don't care. I just want the game to work.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Who cares? I like it's not that big.
So Chris,
there's variants of difference, and then there's variants of minor.
Absolutely, Chris. What's your background here? How'd you start? What got you down the road?
Oh my goodness. So I started out in arcades. Okay, I was an only kid going to school. I was a latchkey kid. Okay. So, as similar with Woody, my dad also worked for TI, and so I had it all. I'm not trying to brag or anything. I had the Nintendo, I had the Genesis, I had the TurboGrafx CD, and my parents kind of their mentality was, well, if he's playing video games, he's not doing drugs.
Right.
Drugs of different kinds.
So video games, have, for me, it's been my release. A lot of people take bad roads or whatever. Mine was video games. And so usually if I wanted something, I'd ask for it. It'd either be yes or no. Most of the time it was yes. And so that's kind of how I grew up with it, So it was fun, my youngest
just never left.
I just never left. So I guess I had to be a little kid, because I remember my dad holding me up at arcades to play them.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Nice.
So I've been playing a very long time.
Yeah. Arcades for all of us, especially in our age range, we remember them. We remember going in and getting a handful of quarters or
absolutely.
Saving half of your lunch money, baby. To for
stealing mom's quarters out of her purse. No.
Yeah, that's right.
No, you never did that, huh?
Never. Nobody saw anything. Total deniability. Never happened.
The 3 screw versus 5 screw thing reminds me of that actually meme.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, actually, totally. No, so again, my background is people on the show would know, but just to kind of state it again, I started off pretty young as well. I am of the Nintendo era of '86 and onward would technically be my start point, but my dad did have an Atari, and so my older sister would play Atari. So I remember vividly hooking up the Atari and playing. I remember having to have this thing hooked up to the back of my TV. To,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Daisy chain those things, man. Atari NES, Sega Master System.
Man, I only had the Super NES. Y'all had like all the systems. I only had one.
No, that's fine. But see that leads me to my part is I didn't. After that, I got a Nintendo for Christmas, and then I really didn't get much after that. It took many years afterwards. I was a Genesis individual. My dad eventually did get a Genesis, but I never had a Super Nintendo. I had a Game Boy. But then after that, everything was just kind of like, if we could afford it, if we couldn't afford it, that sort of thing. And so as I got older and disposable income, when I say disposable, I mean like money that probably should go to something else more important.
Subject to interpretation.
Wouldn't know anything about that, would we?
We wouldn't know anything about that. But we just start feeding, and we're just filling in the gaps of the things that we missed. And that leads me to the kind of the point of this whole meetup and this whole conversation was retro gaming in general has become, I don't want to say mainstream, but it's in the media now more often than it's been in years.
Sure.
Mostly due to the value of video games. Old video games all of a sudden have become they've become the new baseball cards, the new Superman #1 Action Comics #1 sitting in someone's closet.
Yeah.
Go and find it. It's probably worth a lot of money. And I'll state my side of things real quick just to kind of like start the conversation rolling.
Sorry,
but gaming in general in that kind of way is disappointing because what ends up happening is people like us that maybe want to buy these games again, or the idea of like buying and selling and trading as collectors used to be where, oh, well, you know what? I'll trade my copy of Earthbound for now. I'll go get it. I'll get it again in a couple of years because, it's not that big of a deal. But now it's become where, a copy of Earthbound unboxed. What does a copy of Earthbound unboxed go for?
Now,
too damn much.
About 200-300 easy.
Yeah, and this is
off the top of my head.
Now, again, and I'll date myself here, but I know everyone in this room knows. But do y'all remember what Earthbound when it came out? Like it was a peg warmer. It sat in the clearance bins at all the big box stores because it was one of the last Super Nintendo games.
Yes.
Everyone had moved on.
I remember EB having them for $30.
Yeah, I have. This will make people cringe, but I have several stories. So, like about around the time that Earthbound came out and was out a little while, at that point, I was running an import store called Die Hard Game Club, and we were playing all kinds of different stuff. But one of the big things at the time,
Sega Saturn and PlayStation had come out by then.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had them almost a full year before it came out. But one of the big things we were playing, of course, was Square's Chrono Trigger, which was huge. Chrono Trigger was absolutely huge. And of course we played a bunch of other Square stuff. Well, I had glossed over Earthbound, and I was just like, I heard about it, I heard kind of the quirkiness of it. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting stuff, but I'm not going to pay $80 for this big, huge, because the only way it was sold was in the big, huge box.
The big box.
That's the Nintendo Power Official Strategy, guys. That was never sold any other way. It was huge. Well, I didn't get it, so I ended up, and every once in a while I'd go shopping, get some stuff. Well, here I go. I walk into Best Buy, and there is just a row of them, a whole line of them being clearanced for $30.
Yeah, I remember. I remember specifically walking into that store. Right next to they had an aisle, and they had the Earthbound sitting there on super sale, like almost. And right next to that was Donkey Kong 64. Yeah. They were like, hey, the Nintendo 64 is out. Here's the new thing. Here's the new hotness.
Couldn't move them.
But you couldn't move those Earthbound, and now
almost couldn't give them away. Yeah, bought it for $30 and put it on the shelf, and to this day, never opened it. It's still sitting there, never opened.
We have a cartridge open to play.
Yes, but I have a cartridge open to play. It was like because once the value started going up over the years, I was like, maybe I should probably just keep this sealed, and I'll just get a loose cart to play.
And again, now I'll restate the question. Yeah. This time, not a loose cart. But what is a complete in-box mint, or close up sealed copy
Is
of
that
Earthbound
a
go for?
grand now, isn't it?
Right now, the current trend is around about $2,000 if you've got it complete. If it's brand new, you're looking at probably between 3 and 4, or whatever someone's willing to pay.
Now-
you just don't find it. You usually just find them used
Yeah.
and complete, maybe, hopefully, if it still has the scratch and sniff stickers. Yeah, as long as the other stuff in there.
Right. So that leads me to a little bit to, again, I'm going to kind of fire through a lot of this, and just so that we can kind of touch all these topics. But in general, that leads me back to the conversation of, here's a game that was rare. It is considered rare now, not only because it was a peg warmer and people didn't buy it, but also because the while we saw it, we remember it on the shelves as tons of copies that no one bought. Honestly, Nintendo did not make as many as, let's say, a copy of Super Mario World. Or a copy of,
right.
There was never a Player's Choice edition or a Game of the Year edition or anything like that. It was one run and done, and they barely put it out there, and then they saw that no one bought it, and that's why they buried the franchise, right?
It just had a clearance. They built too many of them. It didn't have brand recognition. It was actually the sequel.
Yeah,
it's not the first game, because the first one was actually on the Famicom, which didn't come over to the States.
Didn't come over to the States, so it was such a weird, already quirky title to release a sequel to.
Very, very quirky title. Didn't have the marketing behind it.
And the funny thing is, nowadays it's like a cult classic.
It is a cult classic. So again, now you said a sealed copy of Earthbound goes maybe new, and you're in a pristine condition, would go for about $3,000 to $5,000. That's an investment, but it's definitely cool that it goes for that much. And then we get stories like this.
Oh my God!
Here we go.
Here we go.
Right. So this is definitely one of those conversation starters without starting a conversation. And again, if you guys are familiar with the Carl Jost expose, Jorst, Jorst, right? He put out a kind of a YouTube documentary, kind of an expose dealing with WATA and Heritage and all the auction houses and the pricing and the fixing and all of that. And without me talking about it, that sealed copy of Super Mario Brothers, a very, very overprinted game.
Right.
What is the final price? Like 500,000 or a million?
Yeah,
or it was
something
ridiculous.
like that.
750, some ridiculous number.
Something ridiculous. So I don't know about you, but I know, as a collector and as a retro gamer, I know that a copy of Mario
flat out not worth it
versus a sealed copy of Earthbound, which I know was a clearance game at one point, but like I stated, it did not get as many copies printed. It was very limited run, and what was out there once was done. That should be the game that I would have, if someone had said, a copy of Earthbound in mint condition had sold for $700,000 graded, I would have been like, wow. But the suspicious of a game like Super Mario Brothers going for that price.
Right.
Yeah.
What's your take on it? Folks? Let's start with Chris.
I think if someone's going to spend that kind of money on a Super Mario Brothers, they're a moron.
Yeah.
That's that simple.
Okay.
It comes down. Go on.
No, go for it.
No. Yeah. What a joke. That's it really
comes down to, on that, it's, if you sit and watch the expose, there's a lot more to it, and it's a lot of just manipulation of the market.
Manipulation, like probably some backroom deals.
Oh, watch it. Trust me, you are absolutely correct. It comes down to also supply and demand. It comes down to ethical practices. There's a lot of things that never should have let that happen.
Right.
And because of that, the entire market's gotten skewed.
Right.
No, nothing like that ever should have happened. It's also part of why I think grading is an absolute joke, and is completely unethical.
Yeah.
But
what do you think?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Well, long before the whole WATA thing,
Sure.
and BGA was doing their own little grading thing or something like that. It doesn't take a genius to figure out very quickly when you see something of that nature.
Rotten in Denmark, right?
It's just in the stratosphere. 500,000, 750,000, $1 million on that. That obviously something is not right. Okay, there's obviously a bunch of smoke and mirrors going on. A bunch of people are being market manipulated. A great deal of ignorance of the industry is where it's going to come from. Where you've obviously got a bunch of, not just individuals but conglomerates, some groups, investor groups that have been sold this idea that it is somehow worth that, and that is a huge, massive, multi-million-dollar marketing ploy, that once again that we've seen over the decades, in various industries, even the coin industry, when that was overinflated, that they're lying and saying that this is worth. Yeah, exactly. It was, where they are just completely selling the market manipulation, idea of this is worth X, or Y or Z, when we all know it's only worth A, B, and C, and it just amazes me. Long before I knew the investigative journalism was coming. I mean, it was obvious,
Right.
Yeah.
Something that's worth, $100 is worth $1 million. No, it's not. Here comes the details, and it didn't take but a few weeks, and it came out.
I think this also causes like a trickle down effect. Is now you've got Joe Smith looking their attic, and they're like, "Oh, we got gold here."
Yeah,
and they got Mario 2, and just like, no, you don't.
So we're gonna cross that point of the conversation in a second. Definitely, the ripple effect for people like us that enjoy our old games, that have our old games, and then there's this mental kind of barrier that or conversation that has, where you're like, at one point, like, we have a running gag on our show where Cautious says, if only we were about 15% more evil, that's all it takes. That's all it really takes to be that douchebag, that scalper, that guy that's willing to flip things in a market where, I'm all for making a quick buck. I'm all for making money. But there's something like internally unethical in my heart of hearts, especially as someone that grew up that couldn't afford video games. And to see games that I grew up with that I know are valuable. I've always known they were valuable, but they've got intrinsic value. But now all of a sudden they're being treated like their value, like rare mineral value. And that is damaging for the community in general. The trickle down effect of that is that now the inflation of prices happens, because if a sealed copy of a common game can be worth that much, then obviously, while the argument will be that some people say, well, only the graded games are that much, but that's not how it works. Because if you set the bar that high on something that common, then everything is obviously got to be worth more now. Which, on one hand, if you're a trader and seller of video games, where you're constantly using trades as fodder for more things, then that can be good, because all of a sudden your stack of games that is your trade pile is now gone up, 15, 20, 30, 40% in value. The problem is now to spend that amount equals out, right? Like if you wanted to trade all that, that copy of, Link to the Past, which was worth $25, $30 2-3 years ago, is now $80, $100 for a copy of Link to the Past, one of the most common Super Nintendo games out there. Should not be worth that much, but it is. And so now it's worth that much, but the problem is the $100 won't get you that far anymore for whatever game you want.
Right.
So kind of going off of that idea right there. And so like we did monthly meetups or whatever, right? And so we'd have these resellers out there. Let's say they had X game for $50, right? Well, then they don't sell X game for $50. Well, then sometimes they'd come to the next meetup because of, like, let's say they read something or price charting or whatever the case may be. Now that same game's $60. Well, if it didn't sell at $50, what makes you think it's going to sell at $60?
Right. Well, I mean, one of the biggest problems with this community as well is individuals within the community that they don't mean harm. A good example is this platform that I'm on right now. We're on YouTube, and there's other YouTubers out there that put out. A good example is like Metal Jesus. He's I have no ill will towards the guy. No. He, as a matter of fact, a lot of the stuff that he's done has helped the community. But one of the problems is that every time he mentions a game, or he creates a hidden gem video or something like that, that causes that game to go up in value. And so that's okay, because that's how a lot of this the collecting market works. That's how the car collecting community works. If a movie comes out and all of a sudden it's got a DeLorean in it, all of a sudden a DeLorean that was a piece of shit car is now worth a lot more money because it was in a famous movie.
Right. Popularity effect.
Right.
A 1984 Trans Am isn't cool. It falls apart, but a black one with T-tops, all of a sudden it's a kit. Everyone wants it because it's an 80s car. See what I'm saying?
Smokey and the Bandit.
Smokey and the Bandit. You want a 1978 Trans Am? It's those are popular, but they were shit cars at the time. So my point is that happens in this community, within the community, and that's okay because we're stirring our own pot. It's that external field. It's the individuals that weren't even part of this community coming in and kind of wreaking havoc within our community.
Right. Absolutely. There's some people that I firmly believe, and some people may disagree with me, and I don't care, is they don't need to be in it. They just don't. I won't name names or anything, but they just don't need to be in it.
It's not that, I feel everyone can be part of, but at what point does this stop being about the games? All right. Like at what point is it just the next
whenever you think your collection is your retirement fund, and if that's the case, then I think you need to reevaluate what you're doing.
Fair. Right. Yeah. Jason, you've got a big collection. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I like talking to you about is because you have a full collection. For example, you have an entire Saturn US collection.
Yes, as of today, we just got the final game. We got Power Slave. We have a complete US retail collection for the US market. Thank God it's finally done.
And for people that are watching the show right now, we talked about this, last week, and I asked you. I'm going to ask you again on camera because I wanted to know what is the value right now, as of 2021, of that entire Saturn US in-box collection.
Roughly, because it is CIB. I ran the estimates. It was based on some averages from a few or several months ago, so it might be a little bit off, but not too much. I would say it's not off too much, but I think the value I had was approximately between $22,000 to $23,000 if you were to try to get every single game in good condition, CIB, for the Sega Saturn. It's about roughly a little under 250 titles.
So about 250 games, about 20 grand.
20 grand. A little bit north of that. Yeah.
And that is, again, prices of 2021. So as a collector, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
What was that price? What would you say would have been that price? Obviously it's hard to kind of say it, but what was that price 2 years ago?
2 years ago? 2 years ago, it wouldn't have been that. 2 years ago, it would have been, I would say,
10.
Saturn was already up on. Sometimes it depends
Saturn
on the
was
category. It was already up on the category, but it did go up with the spike with Shelter at Home and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably 17, 18 maybe.
Yeah.
If I'm really off, maybe you could say 14, 15 grand. Okay, but it definitely had the Shelter at Home and the retro fever and everything taking full effect. Continue to have effect on the category. It was already getting more and more sought after on its own, so that was a huge part of it. But I would definitely say the value of it probably over that 2 year period probably increased roughly 20 to 30%.
Now again, and I asked this because you are a collector and you've got an entire collection. That is part of the fun. Collecting in general, there is nothing wrong with collecting and having bookshelves of games, and that's part of the fun with retro.
The thrill of the hunt.
The thrill of the hunt. But the thrill of the hunt should not equate the thrill of the payout. Right.
Yeah, everyone's got their limit.
I mean, if that's the case, it's the thrill of the file download if need be.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, there is one particular, I'll put it in perspective. There's one particular Sega Saturn game I do not have. I have to be very specific and say I have a complete US retail collection. Okay. That's every single game that was sold at retail in the United States market. There is one title that was not, and that was Daytona Championship Edition, Netlink Edition.
Which came with the cart. Right, it came with it was the pack-in that came with the X band or the whatever the
actually it was a special edition. if you will, of Daytona Championship Edition for Saturn, but it was a Netlink edition. It was when, right at the very, very edge of, online gaming was trying to figure out its path. We were still doing dial-up and everything.
Right.
1994, we're talking here. So that was a mail order only item. You had to mail off to Sega to get it, and they would send you this. And it is I've got pictures of it. I'll have to show it to you, but it is a special. It came with an extra manual. That was said, Netlink edition, and the disc is a purplish disc. It actually says Netlink edition on there. It is a special edition
and
version
that one didn't come in
Daytona.
the case, right?
It came in the same case that the regular championship edition of Daytona came in.
So how
it
much
just
was
came
that
with
one?
It just came with an extra booklet. Oh God.
Is it 10?
2 or 3 years ago, it was going on average for $1,000. One complete sold for about $1,000 roughly. Another one sold for about $1,300. After that, there really are no other auctions to find this thing. One finally sold on eBay. It was brand new. It was actually factory sealed. We finally had another reference point, which sold, I want to say, a couple of months ago or so, 2 or 3 months ago, and that was factory sealed, and it sold for $9,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
For one game.
That's nearly. I mean, if you wanted to, that's perspective. It's almost the value of half of the collection.
Half the collection.
Right.
Yeah.
So I could be wrong. Maybe it was 7, but it was high. It was high. I think it was 9. But trying to just find a regular open copy is easily right now between $1,000 to $3,000, just depending upon what someone's willing to pay. So point being, that's really difficult for me to sell this one right above me that I wish to go and get that game, to complete the collection. So
I may have it.
We did have a compromise that we got a bunch of Fire Emblem games, in order for, so for her to be happy so that I could go and get it. But that's when it was valued at $1,000. And I can't find it at $1,000 now, so it's well, forget it.
You're going to be buying me a lot more games, maybe some.
Right.
What's crazy is when I was younger, I know I have this game, right? And so I've been telling Woody I have it somewhere. If I don't, that means my evil stepbrother probably stole it. But I
can only imagine. Again, we don't know what's rare and what isn't unless you're part of the community. Daytona USA is a common game, and Netlink edition, while it is a copy of the game, just has the net it's so you would look at it if someone didn't know, they would just oh, Daytona USA, oh, this is just a pack-in. It's practically the pack-in game. So it's I mean, I can only imagine how many of those games were either tossed or thrown away or exist out in the wild, and then they're sitting in someone's dusty pile because
I think about that all the time.
Yeah,
I think about that all the time. You're driving by houses, I wonder what they got.
That's called hunting in the wild.
Hunting in the wild.
I wonder if Grandma still has her grandkids' games.
Yeah, one piece, I'll take $1. And you're yes, please.
Man,
we're not far off from rusty, moldy, bug-infested games going for big money just because. Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely right, Brendan. Absolutely right. I mean, look, that said, that's cool that it's worth that much, and that's cool that you've done that. But one of the things that we also kind of grinds my gears about all of this is how many games do we actually play? As collectors, do we play the games, or do we just like to look at them in a pretty boxes and then open up the spreadsheet and see what it's worth? Right.
I like to play. I have a few children, which prevent that sometimes, but I like to play. And I'm also remodeling the game room. And so I don't really have a place set up right now to play, but when it is all set up and ready to go, I'll be, whatever, be it old or new, I want to create a hangout space,
So, and again, Jason, Kristen, you guys play games, right? And
absolutely
all the time. And so that's kind of the gist of it all, is that collecting in general has become hard. So what would you say for someone that just realized, hey, there's a community for this? Is it viable for someone to kind of come in and try to collect some of the games that they grew up with? And again, I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm just saying what would be one of the things to do?
That's a great question. So if you're just starting out, fresh in, yeah, I remember that game, or I remember that game, I would flat out tell somebody right now that the market is stupidly insane, and to get a flash cart and play your games that you like. Don't even worry about collecting. I mean, some carts, sure, go for it. But some of the stuff that's like $300, $400, $500, no, just get you a flash card, like a Crix card or something.
Yep.
Put
Yeah,
them
And in all honesty, I mean, you also now have those little mini systems that have
Right.
so
Yeah, yeah.
many of the games just already on there. And those are fantastic for people who are looking to get back into the games that they played when they were kids. Like the Super NES, I mean, you can get people, quietly
Oh yeah.
to go ahead and put the entire
Oh, we're not
library-
shy on this channel. We talk about emulation all
Okay.
the time. One of the things,
Okay,
that
cool.
we
Then,
like
yeah.
one of the things that we
Because-
like to talk about is in one of my big tirades has always been like, just play the game.
Yeah.
Play the game. If you want to play the game, go find a way to play it. There are emulators on your PC. Go play it on your phone. Go buy a random handheld from eBay or whatever.
Yeah.
Go get your mini Super Nintendo that you picked up on a whim hacked. Go. There are tons of ways to do it. There is you are no longer hurting the developer.
No.
I
you're
gotta
not.
put that clear and make sure that people know that.
No.
You're not hurting the developer anymore. You're right.
You downloading ROMs no longer hurts the developer.
Those
of the game.
developers back then are probably retired by now.
Right?
Or dead.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
or
Well, yeah.
the only thing you have to worry about is don't host them on your website.
No,
Don't do that
don't
kind of
do
stuff
that.
because big companies like Nintendo will come after you for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
Don't try to sell ROMs because Nintendo will come after you. But the idea here is that these consoles, it's okay to play your old systems.
Yeah.
And play your old
absolutely.
systems how you want to play them. And again, that's another contention with the retro community in general is there's a lot of gatekeeping in like how you play it. If you're not playing it on an original console, are you playing it on a CRT or you're not playing on a CRT? At this point, I just want people to play games, right?
Right.
So I
Then,
think everyone
yeah.
should play how they
Right.
want to play.
Then pick up the little systems that are just, that you can put all the games on and relive your glory days because there's, at least for me, I mean, yes, play on your computer if you want to, whatever, but sometimes it's just fun to sit down with the old controller you haven't held since you were like 6 and have that feeling again. I mean, it's all about, that's the thing that the gaming community should be mostly about. It's connecting over memories.
Yep. Speaking of emulation, real quick, Team Pandora shows up. Hey, what's going on, team? Familiar? They're a team that kind of are in charge of hacking and kind of jailbreaking the Pandora's boxes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they release they've got
Keep up the good work.
yeah. So they've been doing it. And right, Raspberry Pis are totally fine. Again, they're small form factor computers. Getting your ROMs and playing, just play your games, folks. Give the game of retro over the holidays. Go give them. Again, there's a lot of common games out there that are still cheap. Again, let's talk about some of our favorite games in general. What would be what's your go-to game?
Whew. Currently?
No, not currently. I'm talking like if you could only pick 3 games that
Damn.
from
Oh,
3
man.
games that you can that you're stuck with forever.
That's
like
it.
The island, right? The island question. Like you've got a system.
Okay,
What
okay,
system and what
okay.
3 games, or what systems and games would you bring? You only have 3.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to have the Super Nintendo handy
Okay.
because I have to have my Final Fantasy 6.
Okay.
Final Fantasy 3 here, 6 Japan. Okay, that's one I have to have because you can play that one over and over and over again. It's still amazing. Ooh.
3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. This one is gonna get me some eyebrows raised, but it's replay value. You're never gonna
Sure.
stop playing this game. Tetris.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Tetris is going like
Millions
You
of
can
people
kill
can't be
hours.
wrong. That is definitely
No.
one of the most popular games out there.
Still
Yeah.
a lot of fun to play. Challenging.
uh-huh.
I was kind of thinking it myself.
Yeah. And the third. I know what my knee-jerk answer is right now in this moment. That's because I'm hopelessly addicted, so we're not going there. Absolutely. I love Chrono Trigger.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I
Final
have to
Fantasy
agree.
3 is my
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
Okay. Minecraft.
That's a good one.
I
That's
need a way
good
to
one.
play
Mind sharp.
Minecraft.
So
Because it's one of those, I want a game that's going to
It's
let me
constantly-
create.
Yeah. constantly let you go, and that's
Yeah.
we've had this conversation on this show before. It's a lot of people trying to rag on the modern creativity of some of these games, like the ever changing games, like the Fortnites and the Minecrafts and all that, the ones that are for kids. But
Man.
there's a reason that those are still popular, and it's because of the level of creativity that they allow you to kind of do. The gameplay is creativity. It's building blocks with games.
Yeah, funny story is I played it way before he did, and I was sitting here playing it one day, and he came over my shoulder and was like, "What the hell how is this fun?" And I'm like, and I got up and I'm like, "Play." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Sit down and play for a while."
No quest.
And it's like, "This is stupid." And he's running around. It's like, "Wait, what's that?" He got hooked ever since.
Oh, I can do this now. Oh, okay.
So that's the copy of
Right.
Championship.
Yeah, I was doing the share screen here. Yeah, being a noob. Yeah, I just finally found it. But yeah, that is the Daytona USA Netlink edition. That's what it
That
looks
gave
like.
us $9,000.
Yeah, that's the ridiculous. You want to pay a few $1,000s more or less, and it's out of my budget range. So the only way I'll get that is through someone that wants to do some sort of trade or something. But that's basically that's what looks like shrink wrapped. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
mail order only. So.
Okay, Woody, dear, I want to know what your games are.
Yeah, what are your three
What are your
games?
three?
My three. That's tough.
You don't get to choose mine because we're on separate
Minecraft's
islands.
a pretty good one because of the replay. Because when you think of 3 deserted island, that type of scenario, you're thinking replay. Replayability.
How long can you play this game?
Yeah. So
when I get tired of it.
Minecraft will go infinite.
So Minecraft is obviously a big one there. I was already thinking Tetris, and you saw it because my crack right now is Tetris Effect.
Yeah,
okay, so you've got two of my games. What's your third?
So, well, I'm trying to think of something on.
Is it Lawnmower Simulator?
It's not Lawn Mowing Simulator. I am enjoying playing that right now. I am enjoying playing Lawn Mowing Simulator because it exists, and I have to say I played
Unnamed Goose Game.
Untitled Goose Game.
So good.
No,
that was my pick of the
pretty
year
short.
a couple years ago here on the show. That was
Yes.
playing the game.
Okay, for real. What is it?
Third, man, I'm trying to think as I go back to a little bit of the nostalgia fever. I'm like, well, Genesis and Super Nintendo 16-bit era was so phenomenal in terms of the quality of the software then. So I'm trying to think of something that is just like, oh man.
Yeah, let's say that's. I would say online games count too.
Oh, wait.
Online count.
MMOs? We can do MMOs?
Oh,
damn.
Oh, no.
Damn. I have to alter mine.
Well, that might be. I will say, I had lots of fun playing and kicking the crap out of everyone. An Unreal Tournament, the original Unreal Tournament, 56K, modem, and you have to put the sniper scope, about 2 seconds in front of where they're going to be in order to get the headshot, and I freaking wiped them 35-0.
Okay.
So.
Then I have to edit. I have to edit mine real quick then.
So go ahead and add an online title to that.
Add?
Yeah, just add.
Guild Wars 2.
Guild Wars 2, huh?
Guild Wars.
Okay, that was that's your good one.
That's my ad.
What would you say? What's your online? Unreal Tournament.
Well, yeah, it did be Unreal Tournament. I did play a lot of City of Heroes. It was a lot of fun.
We talked a lot about that on that show. We talked about the day that they closed down when the servers were the last day on the servers. Everyone just danced in on Paragon.
Yeah. Did you get back on when they relaunched it?
Oh no, I did not. Is it back up? Is it?
There is an entire story about that. There, you can get online right now with the series, the City of Heroes code. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I'll try it out.
Yeah. Long story short, there was this. It was out there.
Yeah, that's a good list right there. So I'm guessing Zelda 1, Brandon. So that would be the one that you would choose there, the original one, or Link to the Past, or what?
Zelda, yeah, possibly.
GoldenEye, Super Mario Brothers 3, Link's Awakening. That's a good list right there.
That's
a pretty solid list.
Good list. Yeah.
Chris, what are your three?
So
three, and then you can add an online title just to kind of keep.
Okay, so my go-to Skyrim. 100%
Okay.
Skyrim.
That's fair.
That's fair.
That's a
Love
good one.
Skyrim.
It's a huge game.
Okay. Action platformer, I would go. It's a tie between literally Super Mario World, Sonic 1, and Bonk. It's a complete tie for me.
Sonic 1 and Bonk.
Yeah,
those are good. That's a good list. That's a good list.
Okay. A third one, probably again, it's another toss up between Final Final Fantasy 4, 6, or Link to the Past.
Those are all good ones.
The toss
What about you, Joe?
So my top game, the game that like I play once a year from completion, wipe the save file, and do every year, and I never get tired of it, and it always makes me very happy when I do it, is Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Oh yeah,
Nice choice.
Without a doubt,
That's a good one.
Igavania.
It's just Igavania, man. All of the Iggies in general. That one it's good. It's got the mechanics feel good. The platforming, as a platform, if you're familiar with platform titles in general, there's always there's a happy medium between like the floatingness, like the floatness of the jump, and like the attack, and like just the way it all feels, and that game just hits it right on. Plus inventory management and all the tricks and how broken the game can get later on in the game.
Good too.
Like
it still looks good.
It looks absolutely phenomenal.
I kind of wish they would like remake that, but not like this Final Fantasy crap remake. No. I mean, if they were to take it, make it 2D in like Unreal Engine or something, that would be.
Bloodstained.
So like that's interesting.
There's a what is it? It's someone did a fan creation. I want to say it was Castlevania.
I mean, they've done a lot. Someone is porting it to the Genesis right now.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I shouldn't be surprised.
Someone is porting Castlevania Symphony of the Night to Genesis, and it is absolutely phenomenally bonkers how good that looks.
Wasn't there one on Genesis? Was there never one on Genesis?
Oh,
there's just the one Castlevania Bloodlines.
So here's some quick. It's having to deal with like the palette constraints and all of that. So like they're having to redo a lot of the colors. So get 23 colors down to 15.
Yeah, because you could only put like I think it was like 60 something colors on screen at once for the Genesis.
Wow.
Yeah. So they've been trying to get it. It looks good.
That's
but the one
pretty
on the left
incredible.
Is and porting graphics, animations, porting like the amount of animations you can fit.
Oof.
Ooh, that's a big.
But that would be hard.
Here's first gameplay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not
good.
bad. That's actually pretty good.
This is the kind of like community that I enjoy with like retro gaming, and then we like come back with like we've all gotten that programmer job. Let's go back and see the limitations.
What's that RPG that came out? It's fairly Watermelon made it for Genesis Mega Drive. What?
What is it? Parademium?
Pure Solar.
Oh well, Pure Solar. That was their first game. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the one that you could also get it was like you had the cartridge, but then it would also interact with the Sega CD soundtrack?
Paprium.
Yes. Yeah, well, Paprium, that's their new one that they've done. But yes, Pure Solar does have a CD version.
Okay, so that's the version I have, and I'm hoping
Dreamcast one as well.
Right. So I'm hoping that with the Castlevania they'll do something similar. Like you can have your 16-bit sound, but if they also had like a
Sega CD.
They will interact together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
I mean, you could see that they're just getting the mechanics down to kind of like the jumping and just craziness. That we could do that nowadays.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, so Castlevania Symphony of the Night is definitely my top pick. After that,
one.
I would probably choose. I'm going to cheat a little on this one, but if it was a cart. If it was a single cart, I would pick up a Super Mario World plus Super Mario All-Star copy.
Yeah. Oh wow! Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So just all four. Just Mario 1 through 4 on there.
That's cheating. That's 5 games.
Yeah. Technically right.
But you can't go wrong with that.
4 games.
Yeah.
I played the hell out of that cart.
So that was a great one, and I always go back. I'll sit down sometimes and just wipe a file of Super Mario World and just see how fast I can run through it. So that's also one of my favorites.
Yes.
And then I think my last game would be, this
is the hard one.
It's the tough one, but like the game that I just boot up. I just think about like how many times I boot up a game. And if I sit down and just like boot up a game, just play it. I'm just on autopilot, and it just like centers you.
Yeah.
It would probably be one of the it's a toss-up between Link to the Past and Streets of Rage 2.
Ooh.
I know those are two very different style games, but like Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, I remember it all. Like I know where to go. Right. So like as soon as I turn it on, You know, I hear the music and I'm running through it.
It's zen.
It's zen. And then Streets of Rage 2 is one of those games where like I like the music and I like the gameplay and it just like gets you going. So that would be my pick for online.
What's your online?
My online, I think I would definitely choose. You know, I was big into Quake 3 Arena.
Oh, there you go. There's the UT competition right there.
I played. I wouldn't say like semi-pro. I used to enter tournaments all the time as a kid, you know, a teenager at the time. And Quake 3 Arena would be my pick if I could like sit there and just have connection and keep playing those. That would be it. So, yeah, those are my games. And I mean that states a lot. As gamers in general, all those games I own them all. I own physical copies, but as Chris has mentioned before, you know, I keep telling people just pick up, you know, I've got flash carts for a lot of my games just because I just want to play them. What would be the advice? And I'll start with you, Jason, since you've got kind of the bigger visual collection here. What would be your advice for someone that wants to collect now? Let's say someone goes, you know what? I want to collect Sega Saturn now. I don't have any games. How to start? How do you start?
Well, you know, first off, it's going to depend a lot on the collector and what they. Because first off, you should be obviously having fun. You know, I don't think you should be doing it for.
That's good advice.
The value, because you're going to disappoint yourself, and it's going to be very cold and dry. You're just not going to really get a lot of love, entertainment out of it. So anything you collect, whether it's dolls, games, records, I don't care. And there needs to be this. These droplets of flavor of passion in there that drive you. So in the terms of gaming, first and foremost, I always say you need to collect to enjoy and play. You should always play your games. Play them as much as possible within reason, of course. That you can do it. Like if someone was going after a Saturn collection now, again, it depends. Do you care about just getting the disc, and that's all you care about? I just want to play it, or do I want to get a complete in the box?
Well, let's say
that type of thing.
The collector in general could be very different, right? Like maybe they don't want a full collection. Maybe they just want to get like their top 20 games. Yeah, and one of them happens to be like.
That's a smarter way to collect.
That's a smarter way to collect because that is a passion, nostalgia, retro collection / gamer there. So that's definitely a way to do it. Is the simplest answer is to say, go and get what you enjoy. Go and get what you want to play or check out and enjoy that you can afford, of course, and get that. So yeah, if you just want to get, the top 20 games or the top 20 games that appeal to you for the Saturn, definitely just go and get those. Don't worry about collecting all the stupid sports games or the crappy, mediocre games, that came out, or the stuff that's overpriced and is not any good. Don't worry about that. Just get the stuff that appeals to you, or maybe you played as a kid or played at some point when you were a young adult or whatever, and you want to play those again. Go and get them. Go and get those and just enjoy them. That's like the simplest, easiest way I can tell someone is start small, but start with your passion and your enjoyment and your nostalgia for it, and what you're going to play and enjoy, because that's an easy way to get started. If the fuel on the fire is so huge for you that you feel like I got to get them all, well, that's a whole nother, it's arguably a whole nother can of worms.
That's another can of worms that I definitely, that's
frustrating.
It can be frustrating. I guess the advice I could give on to add on that is if someone wants to get, be a complete in box collector, there are multiple ways to kind of get started. Start with a Pandora's box if you don't know what you want. That's right. There we go. Oh,
that's actually not a terrible idea.
That's not a terrible idea. We just talked about that. We said, pick up an emulation box.
Start with an emulator.
But if you wanted to collect them because you wanted to own the game, I never owned that game and I wanted to own it. There's ways to kind of build collections. Hit up garage sales. Hit up yard sales, garage sales, pawn shops. Start with a small budget. Put yourself a hard budget of like, let's say $50 you're going to spend today on games. Go pick up $50 worth of games. Do your research and figure out what you're going to find. And then with those $50, you can reinvest them. There might not be games you actually want, but then there might be games that you can use to kind of keep trading up. What's the start with a paperclip and trade up to a house? There's ways to do that.
There's ways to do that. Yeah.
One thing is, here's another thing you can do is if you see a Mario title lying around, I don't care what Mario it is, and anytime you see it, pick it up, because you can always get enough Marios, take them to a video game store where they always want Marios, and trade it for something more than what you want.
Right?
Yeah, Super Mario Brothers 3 for a very long time was actually very easy to find sealed, and it used to be pretty cheap. I would say less than 10 years ago, I remember walking into a shop, and it wasn't sealed, but it was in box complete, and I think they were selling it for like $35, $40.
Back in the old days.
Back in the old days, and the before times.
Right.
The before times for sure. Let's see. In general, collecting in retro has affected a lot of our hobbies, and as we've gotten older, we become jaded with hobbies like this, but at the same time, we still kind of enjoy it. What are your thoughts on community with retro gaming in general? Like, this isn't again, this has nothing to do with just a shot across the bow for our community in general, but more along the lines of like, as we get older, and this is just kind of, let me just kind of frame my mentality here. As we get older, a lot of these games are couch games.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to sit down and play a 2-player Double Dragon. You want to sit down and play, couch puzzle bobble, that sort of thing. And it's harder, right? So sometimes we build communities. A good example is DRG down here. It's a place to kind of meet up. But at the same time, a lot of times that doesn't happen because the collectors kind of take over that space. So like, what's the happy medium on trying to find a community and make friends as we get older and still do retro gaming? That's kind of a big mouth of a question, but What would you say is the nature of that now?
Well, from what I've seen, yeah, we have some collectors, but there's a lot of resellers, and it's a lot of resellers selling to other resellers.
How do we stop that? How about that? Let's just dive into that question.
I've been asking that question a very long time. I don't think at this moment there is a way to stop it. I mean, I guess you could by enforcing very strict rules, but once you do that, then you've killed the spirit of collecting.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Me and Woody's had discussions over this. A lot of people get angry at the prices. I think that if certain things were ignored, I think that people would be happier. Like, you don't always have to go by eBay price. This is your buddy you're selling to.
Well, it's part of the community, right? Like, I think it's one of those scenarios
this
where
is your friend, or supposed to be your friend you're selling to. So I think it's stupid to ask for certain pricing.
Sure.
Because if you know somebody, you know they're not just going to flip it. It's actually something they're going to play. So maybe you could sell that $100 game for $50 to hook your buddy up. That's kind of where I'm at it. Like, ignore price charting, ignore eBay. Do kind of like the ethical thing, the right thing.
Yeah.
Don't try to sit there and get top dollar, especially off your friend.
Yeah, so communities in general and the retro community this comes from multiple sides. I'm seeing it from kind of a different angle, just because while I'm part of this community, I also do this, and I also do repairs, and my passion isn't just retro gaming, but it's also retro restoration. It's keeping some of this old stuff running for future generations, improving some of that older stuff, things that might have had shitty video output. And all of a sudden we're able to get nice, crispy video out of these old consoles. And, adding some of these new mods, using upscalers, that sort of thing, to be able to play some of these games. And that community kind of butts heads with the retro community in the collecting side, because one side repairs hardware, but at the same time, they're like, just get a flash cart, because the collecting community has made it really awful to kind of jump in and go find that random copy of X game. And so that said, again, back to the question that I asked Jason earlier, was like, hey, like, here, trying to get into this and collect your top 20 games is hard sometimes, depending on the console. NES isn't still too expensive nowadays, right? Like, I could say NES hasn't gotten too crazy, right?
In general, yeah.
In general, majority of games. I mean, unless you're looking for like Flintstones, search for Dino or whatever, and right. Games like that. But all in all, solid game collecting is still alive, right?
Yeah. Oh, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there are people that do hook each other up. That does happen.
Yeah. Well, arguably, Chris, in our community for Dallas Retro Gamers, to be fair, a lot of that happens kind of automatically. I mean, we definitely encourage it, but it also happens automatically. They'll when we have our meetups and we do a big little swap meet, or we're selling to each other, trade and stuff like that. A lot of times people will look at game value now or price charting as a reference, but they'll sell under. They'll say, well, whatever that price is, 10, 15, 20% less, I'll sell it to you and stuff like
That's
that.
fine.
What I was saying,
going on.
well,
So,
what I was saying, I was speaking in generalities,
Yeah.
because if this goes out, wherever it may go, people, don't be greedy.
Yeah.
You'll kill a community instantly just by being greedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think the retro community has gotten greedy?
Oh yeah, on certain aspects, absolutely.
Is there saving it? Can we save the community? Can the community continue without the bubble popping? Is the bubble going to pop?
Is the bubble?
Do you think there's a bubble at all?
Yes, I do. Every bubble pops. Every single
Chris is the optimist, and wanting it to pop.
the baseball card bubble popped.
The problem is baseball card.
Baseball card popped due to overprinting.
Well, yeah, right. So here's the problem is I don't see it popping anytime soon.
I'm rooting for it.
I want it to.
Of course you are.
I want it to, but
I'm cheap. So
here's where I see things, right? Retro community, the retro gaming in general is a finite mineral. There's only so many of this copy of game or whatever. Right. That's not to say that things like flashcards and whatnot aren't there. If you want to play the game, there's ways to play the game. It's no longer about playing the game. It's playing the game and then owning a copy of the game that you like because you like it. Right. That's what's made it hard.
That's your nostalgia, retro fever.
Right. You want to say, I own a complete copy of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, right? You own a copy, a black label copy because that was a childhood copy that I had, or a copy that looks like my childhood. But that game used to be $13-$14, 10, 15 years ago. Now it's, $80, $90, $100 for a copy of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which is ludicrous.
I wouldn't be caught dead paying that kind of money for that game.
Right. If there's a greatest hits copy too out there. So
$130 average for the greatest hits. Black label's about $170, $180.
Has it gone up that much? $170.
It has.
Wow. Yeah. I remember walking into what was the Game Crazy, the one that was attached to all the Hollywood videos?
Hollywood videos.
Yeah. I walked in there and picked up a copy for $13.99. I had my label still for $13.99.
This goes back
in the old days.
Back in the old days. Yeah, exactly.
So you asked me, is there a way to change it? You asked me absolutely. Don't pay the prices. Don't do it.
Right.
Speak with your wallet. If you don't want to, several people.
Does everyone agree with that? I think.
Well, yeah, that's always the general rule. I would agree to that. Is you don't pay the price, because that's what fuels the demand side of the supply and demand economic chain. Is you refuse to pay the price. Unfortunately, despite us with our torches and pitchforks saying don't do that, it's still going to happen out there, unfortunately.
And I blame
it's going to happen.
And so I blame ignorance and stupidity for that. I really do.
Well, yeah, but
to some extent I would. Yeah,
I would too. But here's and again, it's all connected in awful ways, right? So, like I said, supply chain issues this year have caused things like computer shortage chips to be hard to get.
Worldwide chip shortage.
So we've got shipping issues, chip shortage. We're now a year and a month into the new generation of consoles.
Right.
And you still can't walk into the store and buy one.
This
is the longest, I think.
PS5,
specifically PS5, Xbox Series X, and Series X can be found pretty easily. Series X is still pretty hard, not as bad as the PS5. Even the Switch was kind of hard for a little bit. The OLED one, it comes and goes depending. So here we've got a whole new generation of gaming it's fueled by the scalping community. It's the same community. It's that same mentality of flip for flip, flip it to get more money, to get more product or more things. Same thing happens with the retro community is they'll pick up copies. I'm seeing people go on, they're going on eBay or here's something that I've noticed a common trend within our community, and maybe someone can chime in on this. I'm seeing individuals go on, the hidden gem places used to be like Yahoo auctions for Japan, and pay a couple $100 for a box of N64s, couple boxes of PlayStations, and they're importing them and they're selling them in U.S. prices. You're selling. A good example is I see people buy 5, 10, 20 N64s, and they're paying probably decent money, but they're flipping them at $150, $200 a box, which is just feeding
that's insane,
feeding the machine, and it's feeding that economy, that economy that we're trying to break, but it's not breaking because people with that big money, that wallet, are still importing and bringing in the cheap stuff.
So when it comes to import stuff, I can read some of the language, right? And so if someone's selling, a Japanese game for X dollars, I'll actually go on and look what that game's going for over there.
Yeah.
And so if
but games are different. Games are different because games do have a language barrier, but systems in general,
systems,
because almost every system, N64, GameCube, PlayStation, they all can be region modded and languages can be changed. So it doesn't take much. Most of the time, all the improvements you're going to do to some of these systems, where you have to recap, or you have to do region mods, or you have to do anything, just wipes all that slate clean anyway. So that's what I'm getting at is, and I'm bringing up an N64 as an example because a good example is an N64 was considered a shit system for a very long time, right? And
what do you mean was?
We can agree here on this channel right now that the N64 was definitely one of the least loved systems for a very long time, right?
Yes.
It was definitely one of those systems that the library isn't as deep as other libraries.
Right.
The system itself, I mean, pre-COVID, an N64 was like $40-$50, right?
Right.
Now,
I still need to fangirl, but yeah.
Now a black N64 goes for about $100-$120 minimum.
Correct.
So it's gone up double in price.
It's stupid.
The color ones, the fantastic ones,
God,
those have gone up $180, $200, and depending on the color, the watermelon red one is like $250 to $300.
$250 easy.
What?
Yeah. And so the problem is the Japanese ones exist and people are importing those, and now they're going into American prices, which is I guess the point is you're bringing external inventory, internal modding them, and you're still charging the prices of the rarities of the US.
That goes to greed. If I know for a fact I can look over in Japan and I can get me a N64 for 2,500 yen, why am I going to pay you $150?
Yeah. Because it's here and now, right?
It's a great question.
It's a good question, and you and I both know it.
2,500 yen.
But we have to talk about places like marketplaces, right? Places like Mercari, places like OfferUp, places like eBay. eBay is still not my top anymore because there are other places. There are Facebook Marketplace. I had we all have friends, right? We all have friends that are our age, if not older, and they're like, "Hey, my grandson," or "Hey, my kid wants to play these old games now. Where can I go get? I just saw this. I saw this N64. Can I get one off of Facebook for, $150?" Like, there's something about it. Like, at one point, I'm like, no, just stop. It's too much. Like, it's or the opposite side is like, well, I don't want to meddle, man. It's just too hard. It's a whole barrel of worms that can of worms I don't want to have to open. So like that's hard, man. That's hard for the community, hard for us in general, seeing that this is the kind of crap that's happening. So again, I don't expect to solve world hunger with a conversation like this, but I definitely think that we should be aware that the community could do better.
Oh, absolutely. And everyone's also got to realize this whole community, everything, I don't care who you are. These are all wants. None of this is needs. Like when you hear someone, I need that. No, brother, you don't need that. You want that.
Team Pandora, aren't you in Japan? I think I remember you actually work and live in Japan, and so if I remember correctly, that seems to be pretty. I mean, yeah, that's hopeful.
Well, okay,
that's
5,500 yen, 5,000 yen. Well, that's still like
cheap.
$50.
That's cheap.
Still,
still cheap.
Roughly $50. Still compared to 150 here.
I mean, and 150 is like the base black unit without the boost pack, without the expansion pack, without the expansion pack, and like a base controller that's probably pretty janky.
Right.
Exactly. He's like, yep. So yeah, he's in Japan. So yeah, I mean that's I use that as an example because it's a system that emulation is pretty bad right now still. Okay, I'll put it bluntly from the opposite side of things. N64 has bad emulation unless you're playing on PC. So getting a Raspberry Pi can't play the entire 64 library properly. it's just handheld wise, there aren't many handhelds that can play 64. I mean, Nintendo has done its best by releasing their the N64 versions of games on here, which is good. It's got super problems, all sorts of bad emulation, even on the N64 system, but it is a way to play the game. So again, if you wanted to play Ocarina of Time right now in 2021, just pick up a Switch and play it. Even though it's not the best way to play it, it is cheaper way to play it. That's another
situation where some of these games just need to be redone from the ground up. Make it for the Switch. Don't emulate. Make it for the Switch.
It's better. Joe, to answer your question, and what do we do? That the answer is you hopefully encourage more people to demand lower prices. Stop paying. Okay, that's people they're selling them at those prices because people are willing to pay that price. But if they're not getting any pushback from the communities and the members of those communities saying, I don't want to pay $250, I want to pay $200 or $200, start asking for discounts, start asking for lower prices. That's the only way that's going to start to go the other way. You've got to push. If you don't push, then they're just going to sit there, and you've got to push. Otherwise, that system will sit there, and it'll sell or it will not sell based upon the demand metrics of
Woody has a great point right there. And a lot of these guys that I see, it could be at a convention, it could be at our meetups.
We just lost
several. Don't be afraid to haggle. I notice a lot of people pick up a game, and set it down. Don't do. Even Best Buy will haggle with you if you ask them. I've done it.
You walk in and be like, this one's broken, or this one's got a, where's the manager?
No, you get hold of a manager. You say, hey, you've got this TV for $350. Can I get it for $3? And 8 times out of 10, they'll say, sure.
Really?
I've done it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and that happens sometimes. It's no different than approaching the car, type category. Of course, that's another extreme. But as things get up in higher and higher dollar value, there is sometimes, some flexibility in negotiation on dollar value, and it absolutely is in the hundreds of dollars.
Don't be afraid.
That watched it.
So. I noticed a lot of guys in the community are just very shy or sheltered.
Yeah. Well,
they don't want to speak
up. So that's
I'm not saying to be rude.
No, but that's a whole other conversation, because again, this goes back to gamers in general. We're not always the most of extrovert individuals. It's hard for us to haggle and sometimes you've seen a price that you don't agree with is like rejection, and so immediately it's a psychological. There is definitely there's some wolves in the community that take advantage of that stuff, and also a big chunk of the community is introverts, people that they don't express themselves. They don't know how to haggle. They don't have the backbone to do that kind of stuff. Not because it's just they physically can't, and that's okay. And those are the type of people that I personally am I'm fighting for on this. And I constantly use the example because retro gaming should be accessible to everyone. And so when I see and I go to meetups and someone asks for a copy, or they're like, oh, here's a copy of Ocarina of Time, how much do you want for it? And they're like $65. And I'm like, what? Why? But that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to stop. And that's shop with your wallet. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, shop with your wallet, but it does take some skill set. Don't be afraid to ask. I just watched it in another online community the other day. They had, I think it was one of those Nintendo Fantastic Colors, and it was going for about $250. But the guy said, he talked and negotiated, with his wallet, and he said, no, $220 right now, I'll buy it. And the guy buckled. He wanted the sale. So I mean, if you ask, or you say, I'll do it, then that's how you start getting the prices down.
But then you also got the guy. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go. Kristen.
Also, just remember, the worst thing that can happen is that they say no.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I know that can be super hard, and I know that can be awkward. But in the end, just seriously, the worst they can do is say no. Just take that deep breath and try.
Chris, what were you saying?
I forgot now.
It's absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right, Chris. The worst they can say is no, and honestly, I mean,
or take someone with you.
Yeah,
right. But
that's good.
Also that should be. I'm hoping, and again, resellers, if anyone ever watches this and goes, they're scoffing at the conversation, because they're going, it's silly, resellers. One thing that I just want you to listen to is if someone keeps walking up to you they pick up the same game over and over, and they're offering you this amount of money. You keep saying no, and the game gets put back down. That's telling you that the game is worth that much to people. Like,
right.
Let people demand the prices of what it's worth. I'm not saying that they should walk up to a rare game and say this is a $5 game, right? Give it to me for $5. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying that there's a level of normalcy in pricing that has gone away. Like there's no reason why a Mario game and a Zelda game and a game that was practically printed the amount of consoles that were sold, right?
Right.
Like that's the best way to put it is a Super Mario World was practically a pack-in on the Super Nintendo. I mean, it was for many years.
Many years,
it was a pack-in, which meant that for every system that was ever created, a Super Nintendo, American Super Nintendo, there was a copy of Super Mario Brothers that was printed and made for that system, which means that it's almost equal. There's no reason why, if a Super Nintendo is selling for $100, a copy of Super Mario World should sell for $70.
That's ridiculous. That's dumb.
It just shouldn't. That game
shouldn't.
That game should be practically a giveaway. Same reason why. Again,
that's a $5-10 game.
God, I love you. I love the retro community, but there's no reason why GameStop should have been giving as much as they did for copies of Wii Sports.
I mean,
you're not wrong.
Honestly, folks, like if for anyone watching that doesn't understand, what is the going rate of a copy of Wii Sports trade-in at GameStop?
Right now, I don't know what the trade-in is, but I do know the sell value of it right now, and it astounds me. You know how much it sells for.
What does it sell for?
Really?
Right now, someone will buy a copy of Wii Sports flat out $15.
Are they on crack? Why?
I just don't get it.
Because
I'll give you 50 cents for it.
Yeah, because the people are the retro fever is starting just barely to seep into Wii. Wii consoles were only going for about $30-40. You can
Listen,
give
I
away.
understand.
They have doubled that now, and especially with the GameCube backward compatibility and everything, they're going for $80 to $100 now. It's crazy.
I'm going to say it right now, and you're absolutely right. And this is just something for anyone watching. If you wanted to pick up a retro console right now, you wanted to play retro gaming, let's say on a CRT, you have an old TV, you want to play retro consoles, go buy a Wii.
Yeah.
Go buy a Wii. It still has composite out. It is not an HD system. It does 240p. It does 480i. There are tons of hacks and easy ways to do it. It has great emulation of TurboGrafx 16, of Super Nintendo, of N64. They all work great on a CRT. And at the same time, it is backwards compatible with GameCube. You can plug up all sorts of controllers to it. There's tons of things to do it. That is the system. If you can't afford or don't know how to do a Raspberry Pi or whatever, go pick up a Wii. They're like,
that's
again,
cool. I actually
$40.
wasn't aware of all of that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Also, one note, half joking. That warning on the Wii controllers, not a joke. Have a strap.
Oh yeah.
You better be using that strap.
You guys all worked at GameStop. I'm sure there was lots of.
We no joke actually saw those pictures.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the commercials and the memes took off. You know, they were like, "Okay, here goes the controller." I
was customer service during all of that crap.
Those Tyco controllers are so awesome. The drum.
Oh, yes.
Great.
Those are
We
so
have
good.
those. They're
So
cool.
good. Can't believe it. Yeah.
I think I've got one of those like brand new in the box in the archive.
You do.
Yeah, I never opened it up, as I always wanted to find like a loose one to play because they were so bizarre. I love collecting bizarre stuff. You know,
yeah, I have the PS2 edition of that.
We had the
motion
controller somewhere.
Yes.
All right, folks. It is an hour and 30 minutes, and we can go on and on talking about this. I really wanted to do this to have 3 individuals that are just as passionate about retro as I am, and we'll do this again more often than not.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's fun to have, not just like-minded, but people that like to talk about old games in general, and we will definitely do this again, folks. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments, put them in the chat. Even if the stream is over with, I'll see them. I always get them notifications, and I will direct them to Kristen, Jason, Chris. We will all meet again another time. All right, folks?
Awesome. Later.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
It was great.
Absolutely great. We'll do it again. It was a lot of fun.
Folks,
later.
Have a great holiday. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
All righty.
See ya.
Later.